I died. Today was Valentine's Day, and I floated in midair, watching Megan happily embrace the flowers Lucas brought her. Then she took out her phone to message me. These are from Lucas. Aren't they pretty? This spring, bored, I went back to glance at my overgrown, untended grave. It was funny, wasn't it? Just flowers. Flowers would grow on my own grave too. Megan, seeking attention, continued, Zoe, why aren't you replying to me? Seeing that I didn't respond, Megan fell into Lucas's arms. Lucas, is Zoe still mad at us? Why hasn't she replied to my messages? Lucas also took out his phone, flipping through his chat with me, filled with messages he sent but I never replied to. The more he read, the darker his face grew, and he said irritably, who knows where she's gone off to? It was not that I didn't reply to them. I simply couldn't. I truly died on my last Valentine's Day. Lucas and I had been in love for 3 years. At that time, my family was on the verge of bankruptcy, and somehow my father found out that Lucas had once pursued me in college. He found my mother and me, whom he had abandoned, and used my mother's life to coerce me into seducing Lucas, the young CEO, to become his mistress. Lucas treated me well, but he always thought I was with him for the money. What he didn't know was that my mother had committed suicide due to depression. My father no longer had any leverage to threaten me. I had been with him for so long because of love. Thus, when his first love, Megan, returned, he resolutely chose her. He brought Megan into our home and doted on her, while I became their nanny. Megan saw me as a rival and played many tricks on me. She would purposely fall down the stairs and claim I had pushed her. She would deliberately burn herself and say I had instructed her to fetch me water. Initially, I would explain that none of these were my doings, but all I received in return was Lucas's mockery. Zoe, not everyone is as scheming as you are. Lucas's words deeply wounded me, and afterwards, I disdained to explain any further. My love for Lucas dwindled with each dashed hope. I had had enough of this life and resolved to leave. One day, I knocked on Lucas's door, and Megan's voice came from inside. Is that Zoe? Come in. The two of them were lying in bed, Megan covered with a blanket, her half-naked body vaguely visible. Lucas, possibly just after making love, asked cheerfully, what's up? After a long moment, I uttered a few words. I wish you both a lifetime of happiness, Lucas. I want to leave. Upon hearing my words, Lucas's expression visibly turned fierce. He got out of bed, grabbed my arm forcefully, and dragged me to my room. He threw me onto the bed and, clutching my neck, he hissed, you want to leave? I nodded with difficulty. His grip tightened as he viciously sneered, Zoe, how dare you? What do you think this place is? Somewhere you can come and go as you please? Zoe, you were sold to me by your father long ago. You are my dog, and you lost your freedom a long time ago. Let me tell you, Zoe, unless you die, don't even think about leaving. After saying this, he disregarded my feelings and forced himself on me. I once told Lucas that I had seen my mother attempt suicide many times, which is why I fear the dark and being alone. Lucas hugged me tightly and promised, I guarantee that every time you open your eyes, I'll be by your side. However, later on, he locked me in the basement. The light was dim, and I was alone. Megan, upon hearing the news, brought several men to the basement while Lucas was at the office. It was Valentine's Day. She looked down at me and said, tonight, I'm going on a hot air balloon ride with Lucas, but since it's Valentine's Day, I didn't want you to be lonely. I've specially arranged a lot of men for you, Zoe. Enjoy yourself. After saying that, Megan handed the keys to one of the men and closed the basement door. Those men then started a series of assaults on me. I was completely devastated. After the men left, they carelessly failed to lock the door properly. I escaped the basement, found my phone, and made one last call to Lucas. Perhaps as the hot air balloon ascended, there was the sound of wind on the other end. What's up? I said faintly. Lucas, would you marry me? From the phone came Megan's voice. Lucas, look, it's so beautiful. I didn't wait for Lucas's reply and hung up. Then, I took some money and documents and left the villa. I sent the money, documents, and a letter to my only friend, and then I returned to the old house where I lived with my mother. I inherited my mother's depression. The ordeal of these days had made me gravely ill. Ever since I was young, I had witnessed my mother's numerous suicide attempts. Each time I found her in the bathtub with slit wrists, she had a smile on her face. Before, I never understood why, but now, lying in the bathtub with a knife, I finally did. It felt good to be dying.